Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to speak with you here in Ramallah, and also to have a meeting this afternoon in Jericho. And we appreciate the efforts people have taken to come and to participate. And as you've heard from His Excellency the Minister and my two colleagues, the objective of this meeting and the one in Jericho is for us to have the opportunity to hear views and hear issues raised by various stakeholders from the Palestinian side. We do think it's very important that we are in a situation where there can be a study of a proposed action such as this Red Sea, Dead Sea conveyance project, where we do have the cooperative approach with Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority working together as partners and being equally represented in the project steering committee and the preparation of this terms of reference. The terms of reference have been posted on the website. The objective of this meeting is to hear comments on them, but we also will be pleased to receive written comments, and at the end of my presentation I will show you where to send those written comments. I think it's very important because we have a very unusual situation. You heard about some of the issues. In my presentation, what I'll do is I'll briefly restate a few points that were just made about the problems of the Dead Sea, some of their causes, and then talk about the scope of the feasibility study, the environmental and social assessment, and the process which will be used for the preparation of these studies. I do think it's very important to focus on the fact that there has been no decision made about building the Red Sea, Dead Sea water conveyance. What we're talking about is a proposal that is to be examined through a study process. And the studies would provide information to the governments that are cooperating, to citizens, and to other interested parties concerning the feasibility of this proposal. And that would be used to make decisions about this issue. Obviously, you're residents of an area which is a unique resource. The Rift Valley has very unusual characteristics, and as you heard, it's an area with very important aspects. Clearly, we know about the cultural and religious significance of the area. We also have these valuable mineral deposits which form in the Dead Sea. There's also currently tourism and a very high potential for expanded tourism. And with that, of course, employment, which is a major issue clearly in all three cooperating parties. What makes the Rift Valley and the Dead Sea unique? First of all, it is the lowest point on Earth. And in fact, because of the loss of the water going into the Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth continues to get lower. It's getting lower at a rate of about 1 meter per year. This is a very large rate of decline, and it's been accelerated over the last 30 years in particular. One thing, and this is very important in these discussions about the feasibility of this proposal, is that the Dead Sea has 10 times greater salinity than the Red Sea or the Mediterranean. So this is a very hypersaline water body. That gives it very different chemical characteristics, different physical characteristics, and different biological characteristics. And this is one of the biggest issues. It also creates the opportunity for the potash industry, and also makes the sea of interest to tourists because it has many unique characteristics, including the ability of people to float on it, as you know. The sea is now 63 kilometers long, and it's getting shorter. So not only is the sea level dropping, the sea itself is declining in its length north to south. It also has an extraordinarily high level of evaporation and very, very low precipitation. And this is one of the reasons why, when one's looking at restoring the sea, you've got a major issue because you need to both increase the flow, but you also not only have to increase the flow, you have to offset the evaporation. And the fact is that precipitation will not be a solution. There are no climate change models that indicate we're going to have a dramatic increase in rainfall in this part of the world. And in terms of this crisis that we're seeing, if you go down to the Dead Sea, particularly on the Jordanian side, you're able to see, in fact, shelves that are cut every year as the water level drops. So essentially, each year you have a shelf from where the shoreline is, and as it declines, it stabilizes during the wetter period, and then you get another shelf cut and it keeps dropping. So literally there's stair steps, as you can see at this point. So what's really happened, and this was one of the points, is that the flow into the sea has decreased, and it's decreased because of water demand. There's water demand for municipal use in urban and in rural areas. It's decreased because of demand for industrial use, for agriculture, and for tourism. And I think we all know that there's a very, very tight water balance here. And there are competing demands for water. And the environment, which is a user of water, often does not do well. And the Jordan River is definitely much slower in its flow, and its water quality has declined because of these reductions in flow. As you saw in the earlier presentation, the sea level has dropped. It's gone from minus 395 to less than 422 meters below sea level. So we're talking about very, very substantial decrease. I've witnessed this myself over the last 30 years going to the Dead Sea. It keeps going further and further away from the point at which I first saw it. And what's happening now is not only do we have a decline in the elevation of the sea level and a reduction in the length of the sea, but in fact we're having changes in the groundwater flow. Because the water table of the sea is dropping, the groundwater is dropping along the sides, and this is changing the flow into the springs, and it's also leading to the creation of these sinkholes, which are a very major feature now of the area. You saw some of the sinkholes in the earlier presentation, but these are becoming a major management issue. Agricultural land is being destroyed. There's damage to roads, canals, water distribution. There have been some houses that have disappeared, and they're becoming, in fact, a major risk. And clearly also, since one of the major opportunities in the area is development and tourism, they undercut the ability to have tourists go into some areas. Now, as you saw, these are other versions of these photos. 1960, 2000, you can see the decline of the sea. You can also see that starting in the late 1970s, early 1980s, the development of the potash industry. So the southern third of the sea, where the peninsula is, was in fact cut off and turned into pans for the recovery of potash, both on the Israeli and the Jordanian side. And these are very important industries. Major economic benefits come from this industry. But the changes in the Dead Sea level and also this proposal to introduce red seawater, or if one proposed to introduce Mediterranean seawater, would also potentially affect the recovery of the minerals from the water.